What if I told you that the same financial problem humanity struggled with in 3000 BC is the exact same problem that Satoshi Nakamoto tried to solve in 2009? And what if the ancient Sumerians, people who had no electricity, no internet, no computers, came closer to solving it than every bank, every government, and every financial institution that came after them? Today, we go on a 5,000-year journey, from the mud temples of ancient Mesopotamia all the way to the servers running Bitcoin right now. This is the story of the world's first ledger and the world's last one. Before we get to Bitcoin, before we even get to gold, we need to understand something most history books skip over completely. For most of human history, there was no money. If you were a farmer in 8000 BC and you needed tools, you traded grain. But here is the problem. What if the toolmaker didn't need grain that day? What if he needed fish, and the fish guy needed pottery, and the pottery guy needed grain? Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. I need what you have. You need what I have. At the same time, same place, same quantity. Sounds manageable, right? It was an absolute nightmare. Imagine walking 5 miles with 50 pounds of wheat on your back, only to find out the guy you need doesn't want wheat today. You walk home with nothing. For thousands of years, this was the global economy. Every transaction required perfect timing. A bad harvest didn't just mean hunger. It meant the entire local economy froze, because nobody had anything worth trading. The world was stuck. Brilliant people, hard workers, innovative minds, all limited by the impossibility of trade. Then, around 3000 BC, one civilization cracked the code. And what they built was so powerful that we still use the exact same idea today. In the land between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, in what is today modern Iraq, a civilization called Sumer figured out something nobody had before. They invented the ledger. Now picture this. You are a grain farmer, hardworking. Your storehouse is full after a good harvest. Winter is coming, and you need copper tools from a merchant who lives across the river. He doesn't know you. You don't know him. You have never met. He's not going to hand over copper tools to a stranger on a promise. So you both walk to the temple. Now here is what you need to understand about the Sumerian temple. It was not just a place of worship. It was the bank, the courthouse, the government registry, the insurance company, the credit bureau, all in one building, all in one institution. Inside sat a trained scribe with a clay tablet and a sharpened reed stylus. He listened to your deal, and he pressed the details into wet clay. Farmer Ernama deposits 50 bushels of grain. Merchant Enaz receives copper tools, debt to be settled at the next harvest. The scribe pressed his official seal into the clay. You pressed your seal. The merchant pressed his. The tablet was set in the sun to dry. Hard, permanent, immovable, unchangeable. That was the world's first financial record. And it worked because neither of you had to trust each other. You both trusted the same institution, the temple, the scribe, the system. This single invention unlocked human civilization. Suddenly, merchants could trade across cities without knowing each other. Farmers could borrow grain through a drought and repay at harvest. Builders could get paid months before a project finished. Long-distance trade routes opened up across entire continents. The ancient Sumerians invented loans, interest, receipts, contracts, debt, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all of it 5,000 years ago, before the widespread use of the wheel. Let that land for a second. But here's where the story gets dark. The Sumerian system was brilliant. It was revolutionary. It changed everything. But it had one weakness. One single, fatal flaw. The temple. One ledger. One building. One group of priests who controlled every record of every transaction in the entire civilization. What happens when the priests get greedy? What happens when a king wants to erase his debts? What happens when the temple burns down? The answer, throughout 5,000 years of history, was always the same: catastrophe. Let me show you a pattern that should terrify you, because it repeats over and over and over again. Rome, 200 AD. The empire is overstretched. The army needs paying. The treasury is empty. So what do Roman emperors do? They start secretly melting gold coins down and mixing in copper. Same coin, same stamp, same face of the emperor, but less gold inside. They pocket the difference. This is called currency debasement. It is literally government counterfeiting. And it destroyed the most powerful economy in the ancient world from the inside out over the course of 200 years. Medieval England, 1290. King Edward I has borrowed enormous sums from Jewish banking families, the only people legally allowed to lend at interest. The debt has grown too large to repay. His solution? He expels every Jewish person from England, seizes their assets, cancels the debts. Problem solved, if you control the ledger. Jump to 1971. President Richard Nixon, in a Sunday night television address, quietly announces that the United States is severing the dollar from gold. No vote, no referendum. From that moment forward, every dollar in existence was backed by nothing but the promise of the U.S. government. And in 2008, the year that changed everything, the banks that people had trusted with their life savings, their retirement accounts, their children's college funds, those banks had been secretly packaging worthless mortgages into financial products and selling them as safe investments. For years, when it all collapsed, ordinary people lost their homes, their savings, their futures. The banks received trillions in bailouts. 5,000 years, different centuries, different technologies, different continents. Same exact story. Whoever controls the ledger controls the wealth. Whoever controls the wealth controls everything. Until one person asked a question that nobody had thought to ask in 5,000 years of financial history. What if nobody controlled the ledger? October 31st, 2008. Halloween. Lehman Brothers has just collapsed. The Dow Jones is in free fall. Governments around the world are printing money at a pace never seen in history. The entire global financial system, 5,000 years in the making, is teetering on the edge of total collapse. And somewhere in the world, nobody knows where, nobody knows who, a person or group of people using the name Satoshi Nakamoto publishes a 9-page document to a small, obscure cryptography mailing list. The title, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Almost nobody read it. The people who did mostly ignored it. One person replied and called it an interesting idea, but inside those 9 pages was the first genuine solution to a problem humanity had been fighting for 5 millennia. Here is what Satoshi proposed, and I want you to really picture this. What if, instead of one clay tablet in one temple controlled by one group of priests, every single person on Earth had an identical copy of the ledger, and every time a new transaction happened, every copy updated simultaneously, automatically, instantly? And what if changing any record meant you would have to change every copy on every computer at exactly the same moment, which is mathematically, physically, provably impossible? No temple, no priests, no central bank, no government, no CEO, no building you can burn down, no person you can threaten. Just mathematics. That is the blockchain. Think of it this way. The Sumerian clay tablet was brilliant, but it was one copy in one room, held by one institution. Blockchain is that same clay tablet, but duplicated across tens of thousands of computers simultaneously, all over the planet, all checking each other's work, all the time, every 10 minutes, forever. You cannot bribe the blockchain. There is no scribe to corrupt. You cannot threaten it. There is no building to burn. You cannot debase it. The math sets the supply permanently. You cannot erase debts from it. Every record is permanent and public. The Sumerians solved I don't trust you with trust the temple. Satoshi solved I don't trust the temple with trust no one, trust the math. Let me put the two systems directly side by side so this really clicks. The Sumerian temple had one clay tablet. Bitcoin currently has over 50,000 full copies, running simultaneously across the globe. All identical, all updated in real time. The Sumerian scribe could edit records overnight. In 16 years of operation, not a single Bitcoin transaction has ever been reversed, altered, or deleted. Roman emperors secretly reduced gold in coins. Bitcoin's total supply is mathematically capped at exactly 21 million coins. No government, no vote, no executive order can change that number. Medieval kings erased debt by expelling creditors. No army on Earth can erase a Bitcoin transaction. Not even a nuclear weapon changes the blockchain. 2008 banks hid toxic debt for years. Every Bitcoin transaction ever made, going back to January 2009, is publicly visible to every person on Earth, for free, right now. For 5,000 years, humans kept building financial systems they could trust. And every single time, someone with power found a way to cheat it. Bitcoin is the first financial system in human history where cheating is not illegal, it is mathematically impossible. Let that sink in. Now I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. Crypto crashed 80% in 2022. People lost fortunes. It's too volatile. Governments are going to ban it. And you're right to think that. Those are real concerns. But here is the distinction that most people miss. The technology is not the same thing as the price. Bitcoin's price is driven by human emotion, fear, greed, hype, panic. That volatility is real and it's painful. But the underlying blockchain, it has worked perfectly, without interruption, every 10 minutes since the day it launched. No downtime, no hacks of the base layer, no data loss. Now consider this historical perspective. The printing press was invented in 1440. For the next 100 years, it caused chaos. It spread propaganda. It fueled religious wars. Kings and popes tried desperately to ban it. It was called dangerous, destabilizing, a threat to civilization. Today you're watching a video that exists because of the printing press. The internet was invented in the 1960s. In 1995, Newsweek published a famous article titled "Why the Internet Will Fail." The author argued confidently that no online database would replace a newspaper. That video on demand would never replace a video store. Blockchain technology is probably somewhere around 1995 of the internet. The question is never, is this technology perfect right now? The question is, does it solve a real, fundamental human problem? And after everything we have seen today, after 5,000 years of the same story playing out over and over, I think you know the answer. A Sumerian farmer, 5,000 years ago, walked to a temple and handed his trust to a priest with a reed and a clay tablet. A Bitcoin user today opens a phone and sends value to the other side of the planet. In under 10 minutes, with no bank involved, no government permission required, no middleman taking a cut. The farmer and the Bitcoin user want the exact same thing, a record of value that nobody can tamper with. It took us 5,000 years to build it. The question now is not whether this technology is real. The question is, what do we do with it? If this video changed how you think about money, even a little, hit subscribe. Because every week on this channel, we connect the dots between history and your financial future. And those dots go back a lot further than most people realize. Drop a comment below. I want to know which fact hit you hardest. That the Sumerians invented banking 5,000 years ago? Or that Bitcoin might be the first financial system in history they couldn't corrupt? And if you want the follow-up video, where we cover every major currency collapse in history and what each one tells us about crypto today, it's linked right here. I'll see you in the next one.